into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America.
Disaster at the Frick Park Bridge.
Not the freaking Frick Bridge. No.
Bridge in the river, bus in the river. There's been a bridge collapse in the city of Bridges.
Yinzers, get out of the way. The Frick Bridge is falling, Yinzers. They're going to have to come and red up the place where the Frick Bridge used to be. Yins?
Yins, look out. Welcome back to the show. We have today's top updates for you, the listener. Grab a chair and a iconic Pittsburgh stool. What's an iconic Pittsburgh thing?
Stool. Pittsburgh stool sample.
I've only been once, but it seems like they got a lot of stools.
Well, they have a lot of bars, and bars have stools in them. So that makes sense.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not only do they have a lot of stools, they have the most bridges in America, which is why this bridge incident is so notable. Year of our Lord 2022, January 29th, 3:13 p.m. We're reporting live on a bridge thing from yesterday. Joe Biden was going to see the bridge.
Pittsburgh really has the most bridges of any city in America.
Any city in America. I guess they must have lots of little lakes.
Because Bridgetown Comedy Festival was in Portland, and their thing was that we have all the bridges.
Well, maybe that's an insecurity of theirs, like how a guy with a little penis will always be talking about his penis.
Yeah. Well, also, the other thing that Portland did is I think they had these bumper stickers that said "Keep Portland Weird," and either Austin ripped them off or they ripped Austin off, because Austin had the same like slogan. What I'm getting at is I think Portland is full of shit and it doesn't have an identity and it needs to steal from other cities. Like the real Bridgetown.
I think city to city diplomacy is already so hostile before you even get started into like which ones are the fake ass cities and which are real ass cities. I do think Pittsburgh is a real ass city.
Pittsburgh, you're the real ass city of the week. You had a bridge fall apart on you.
You scared Joe Biden when he was visiting to talk about fixing bridges. It is so okay. So Joe Biden visits Pittsburgh. Conveniently, one of its big bridges collapses when almost no one is on it, and nobody dies. And then he gets to be like, "See, this is why we gotta build back better with Big Joe." Kind of seems like.
Are you implying that it was that George Bush blew up that bridge?
Yeah, Joe Biden knocked down the bridge towers. That's kind of what I'm implying. Yeah,
he did it in order to predicate starting a war with Pittsburgh, where we drill oil from them.
Well, he already passed the thing, right? The infrastructure bill that went. He got that part of it in.
It's weird that happened while he was there, and that it didn't happen, and then he went there like because of it. It just happened to happen while he was hanging out.
That's all I'm saying is it's weird. I don't have any proof of anything happening except that what Diamond Joe witnesses behind his ice cold shades is turned to dust before his eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, it's another week of Pod Damn America.
Hello,
what
everyone.
The fuck is up?
What's up? I'm hungover because I went and partied in the blizzard because I had a primitive reaction to the fact that a snowstorm was coming to destroy New York. And I was like, maybe if I go party inside of it, it will be appeased and leave my family alone. So I went to Carmelo's, which is a bar in Bushwick that looks like the Euphoria show. It's full of drunk children. And I feel like shit because I had to trudge back in the snow. And it's another podcast day for me. You don't get to take them off.
No breaks. Hustle never sleeps.
Just fucking keep going and reading about gun cults and fucking bridges and shit. Because people need to listen to something while they're at work.
Yeah, by the way, Pittsburgh is known as the city of bridges for its 446 bridges.
Maybe it's known as that because it's the home of Jeff Bridges. That'd be cool.
I think I would have to look that up, but I'm not sure that's true.
That would be
Don't
insane.
go around telling people that until you've double checked.
That was a stab in the dark. He could be from any city.
True. He could be from anywhere. He's behind you. Do you like Euphoria? I don't relate to the experience these children are having.
Man, I have so much to say about this. I fucking love this show, but it's confusing because like all these different people are watching it and reacting to it. And some people are saying, I didn't do any of this stuff in high school. This is unrealistic. And then some people are going, this is exactly what my high school experience was like. And I want to be a little class reductionist about this and go, this means some people grew up rich and some people grew up poor, and that's the difference. But I don't really think it is. I think it's like regional and generational and like all this other shit. And so like I just like it because like I think it's a really well told story and it's like shot really well and stuff.
Yeah, do you like that it looks like a music video?
It's fucking cool.
For like a full hour.
Polaroid. But like I was thinking about it and I was like, well, what's going on here with like the weird like the jocks and stuff and like the cheerleaders and shit like that? Not what was going on at my school growing up. That happened out in the suburbs. This kind of reminds me of rich kids growing up in the suburbs, I think, because rich kids had like heroin and stuff like in high school. And me and my gutter children that I grew up with, what we did was we smoked weed and like tried to get the guy at the corner store to buy us 40s and then just like huffed gas and like did like Robitussin and shit like that.
Yeah.
So that would be my version of the show. I want them to make a like that, like specifically designed for me, but TV also doesn't need to be like, we made this exactly for you. Like I totally
made you a show, Jake. Do you like me, Jake?
I mean, the show is also about Zoomers, which is like none of us can relate to having smartphones and shit in high school, which looks terrifying.
It seems awful.
They're all just like filming each other every time somebody's getting owned or whatever the fuck in public. Crazy.
I think that the problem I have with it is like it looks like shadows of things I experienced, but like in a far sexier light than oh man, can't use that word. The very stupid things I witnessed as a child. Which would be I know a drug dealer and he did get stabbed, but it was because he was showing the drunk 23-year-old who works at the hamburger store his knife to brag, and the other guy was so drunk he thought he was under attack.
That's so funny. Yeah, you don't really see like it would be cool if the show was shot all like crazy and in bisexual lighting and like fucking cinematographical and shit, but then like it's like virgins playing Pokemon cards and stuff, because that also happens in high school.
Yeah. That is notably missing from the Euphoria plot line is the you have 60-hour maximum to raise your Pokemon tournament that everyone is in.
I mean, I think it's very telling. Like people are kind of telling on themselves when they're like, excuse me, I didn't have sex in high school. This is unrealistic. It's not unrealistic. It's just like people had different experiences, you know. I think I empathize with it because I was a freak, not a geek, more so. Like,
yes,
I smoked a lot of weed out of aluminum cans and stuff.
You had to. Cool. That was how it was done.
It's also like, I mean, have you watched it? How far are you?
I saw a few episodes, and honestly, like, I'm enjoying the show. My wife has already watched it through. This is the part I'm stuck on, is that I worked very hard on a property called Pedophile High School a few years ago and got all kinds of shit for naming it that, even though it is clearly a joke. And then check into the most popular show on television 2 years later. And it's just not a joke. High schoolers all having sex, and you see all their fucking glands. It's like,
it's crazy because you're watching it and you're like, wait, huh? Like, is this okay? And then, I mean, if
they're
you're
all
anything like me,
35 years old.
you look them up on IMDb. Most of them are like in their early to mid 20s, but there's like one actress that's 30. She's just in high school. It's like she looks young enough, but it's just weird because like that's even weird. It's even weird that she's hanging out with the 23-year-olds that are playing teenagers. Because I mean, once you're 30, man, you hang out with somebody that's like 21.
Yeah, it's like statutory.
So like
that's adult statutory.
Well, you're just like an alien at that point. So you're just like, man, remember Doug? And they're like, yeah, I was a baby like 2 years ago.
Doug, you mean Yawn Cat?
Yeah, Yawn Cat.
These are the discussions we have.
Cat.
Oh, right, I forgot we know Nyan Cat. But anyway, the show doesn't bother me, but the things that fucking upset you nuns have to come and scold independent artists for their beautiful comedy programs drives me fucking wild.
Yeah, it is bullshit. You get a lot of shit over Pedophile High School.
I had a lot of people I'm like friends with who are like, I refuse to listen to your show. And it's like, you know, it's just me doing voices in there. You can't even see it.
What the fuck? That's too far for people?
I don't know. Just the name. Just the name.
That's crazy.
By the way, I was saving this for plugs, but thank you for funding Theater of Delight Season 4 and maybe the return of Pedophile High School. What will happen? More divorce, probably.
Yeah. More cool boss fights.
I'm hoping everybody votes for the horse show, because I've been watching a lot of horse television to prepare.
What is horse television? What is the horse show?
So there's a lot of different horse shows. There's movies like Seabiscuit, like War Horse, like Secretariat.
Mm-hmm. Black Beauty.
But underneath the prestige horse layer, those are your Hollywood horses. You go down a level, you get into the real culture. There's a very popular Canadian television show called Heartland, which is supposed to take place in Virginia in America and is populated entirely by the most Canadian actors you have ever seen on television. Just
It's a whole TV show about a horse?
It's girls who raise horses, and then they find out they're like the horse and have a bond with the horse.
Okay. It just seems like that would be really difficult to stretch into multiple stories. But then again, you know, the premise of Euphoria is what if teenagers had sex with each other? And that's seemingly endless.
The Greeks have been writing about these two topics for thousands of years. These are old classics.
Oh, yeah. These are like Carl Jungian archetypes. The hero's journey starts by having sex as a teenager and ends with riding a horse.
I also found a show called The Pony Sitters Club. And this aims for a younger audience. And these are girls who wish they had a pony mostly, because these are like 8 to 10-year-olds, and they hang out at their grandpa's farm. Very common trope it would be among all these the stable of horse shows is a grandpa who's like 38. Isn't all of them like a sexual grandpa?
Oh, God.
And he's like, yeah, you can get out there, ride my horse. I don't mind. You don't have to view me as sexually predatory. I'm a grandpa.
That's so depressing.
Pony Sitters Club, big fan. It's clearly made for children, but they got horses. They got a goat. The climax of the first episode is just they accidentally let the horse out, and then it's just eating grass, and they're like, oh no, and then they call it over, and it comes, and it's back inside, and that's the show.
Damn, dude, that sounds like riveting.
It's really good
television. That's like when Breaking Bad was on the air and everyone was talking about it at the water cooler. What do you think's going to happen with the horse? Did it really go back into the stable, or is it going to get back out?
Run, do not walk to your nearest viewing of Pony Sitters Club. The villain is just a girl who's like kind of a bitch because she owns a horse.
Is it like direct? Like, was it made by the Babysitters Club people, or do they straight up just rip off that name?
Well, it's different sitting a baby versus sitting a pony.
I suppose so. The pony
It's a totally different experience.
You have to put a pony like to sleep at night. You have to
You gotta rub its muzzle.
We're going to bed now. You go sleep standing up over there.
Yeah, I think you do have to put it to sleep. You put it in the stable. You lock them up.
How do horses sleep in the wild?
They stand together in a clearing.
That's so weird. Can you imagine if you just were wandering through nature and then you were just like a bunch of horses just hanging out asleep? That's weird.
Dude, horses are very large. That would be very frightening.
I wish I could do that. I wish we could do that. Like you, me, and Anders. Like, let's take a nap, boys.
Lock our knees and just close our eyes.
Standing around.
Not a phone in sight. Just vibes.
Yeah.
The boys with their horses. So aside from the infrastructure of the United States collapsing, it's been a big week for media. The sights and sounds of the silver screen, the glitz and glamour of Tinseltown. And media is evolving so much in this fast-paced environment that no one knows quite what to do when things get a little out of pocket, which is the rub we've come across with one Joe Rogan program on Spotify now.
Rogan, what's he up to now?
The big thing with him this week is Neil Young finally, like, I guess, found out about Joe Rogan or something.
Yeah.
He found out that Joe Rogan is like the most famous man alive and that they both operate on Spotify. And Joe Rogan lies to Americans about getting the vaccine. And then young men don't get the vaccine. And we have to assume Neil Young is a horse grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
So his stable hands are probably getting really close to him and his family, and they're not vaccinated because they listen to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And so he wants to kind of defund that platform or just like punish them for that. So he's taking all of his music off Spotify.
It's ironic that he's named Neil Young and he's so old. It's
and
like
he's
when
so
a fat
old.
guy's named Tiny or something. It's kind of funny.
Yeah,
Neil Young.
Bet he didn't see that shit coming when he was 25.
Yeah, bitch. Tell me more about your heart of gold. You're going to be heart of old. I don't know how to make that one into a joke. Okay, so yeah, this is like the stupid thing of the week that dumb guys are arguing about. And like the big thing, if you're a stupid dumbass, is he's censoring Joe Rogan and he's doing a boycott. I think somebody referred to him as blackmailing Joe Rogan at one point.
He's doing musical blackmail. One of the most vibrant and exciting kinds.
This is like one of the dumbest things that everyone refuses to learn, and we just have to keep rehashing every week forever in America because of the unique place we are in history or whatever. But like, I mean, if you fucking listen to this show, you probably already know where I'm going with this, and you're probably not one of the dumbasses, but like, it's the private market. So it's all free speech. If you pull your music, if you put your music, if Spotify hires you or fires you, it's all that is free speech being executed in different directions. None of it is censorship. Censorship is if the government was like, hey, Joe Rogan, you should shut the fuck up, which also probably should happen.
He's probably indirectly killed like 10,000 people by this point.
So many dumb guys are just full of fucking like viruses because of him.
Not to mention like horse glue.
Yeah, just full of horse glue and this alien fucking organism that's killing us all. Because like, God, it's so insane. Because like a big defense you'll hear of him a lot is like, he says he's a dumbass. He says he's not a doctor. Everyone that listens to him, thinks that we're just having a good time listening to him. Everyone knows that he's not to be taken seriously. And it's like, but everyone does. Like,
They all do is he invites on a guy who says he's a doctor to say not to get vaccinated, and then you listen to that guy. So it's kind of the same like transitive property here.
Yeah. Also, it's just a lie. Like I know so many dumb guys that are like, he's really intellectual, and it's like the same people making this fucking argument that I think that they think maybe if you say you're not like. If you some weird philosophy trick where like I know I'm an idiot, therefore I'm a genius or whatever, but like he has a
warrior's wisdom from confronting his fear on Fear Factor.
Yeah, wouldn't it be funny if like there was a Fear Factor episode where it was just like, all right, take the vaccine, you can do it. He's just barking at you.
All the contestants have to sit in that chair for 5 minutes and make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
That's the scariest part of getting the vaccine, when they sit you in the chair.
The chair?
Do you guys not? So I went to a pharmacy and they shoot you up and then they're like, sit in the chair. And if you expire, come tell us. And I'm like, What do you mean expire?
Yeah, you have to sit there for like 10 minutes or something and then they let you go. And it's just, but they don't really, it's not clear what they're waiting to happen, so you're like, am I gonna die? Like,
yeah, the first time I thought it was like coming on right away, but what happened is I was having like an anxiety attack because they just made it sound really scary when they gave me the thing. And I was like, I feel it. I'm kind of fucked up right now.
Yeah, that's why you can't trust the vaccine because it's made by Big Pharma. Please give us as much money as you give Joe Rogan. It will. If I start saying shit like that, will you give me money? Seems like a very lucrative thing to do in this country. No,
it's almost the only thing to do. So apparently Neil Young has taken all of his music off of streaming before for temperamental reasons. Like he didn't like the sound quality a few years ago on streaming services. So he took all of his music off Apple Music and Spotify. And then his people were like, Neil, you gotta put out your music to be a musician. And then he put it back. But I think it's like Taylor Swift took all her music off of Spotify. Like at some point, like I feel like if anything, this is just a turning point of how long can we as a culture withstand Joe Rogan being the most influential man in America?
I mean, a lot of artists are following suit and taking their shit off of Spotify. And so there's potential that this could like turn into an actual what would you call this, like an artist boycott or something, and actually have an effect. The figure that's flying around today is like they lost 4 million since this has happened, in whatever the fuck abstract way you measure how much money Spotify is making this week. But like another argument you'd hear is like, why did he have to make such a spectacle of it? Neil Young just wants attention. It's another thing that dumb guys say. I don't know. That's a big dumb guy accusation. Anytime anyone does anything, is you just want attention.
He just wants attention. It's so sad.
The point of this is to make it a public thing, not just to be a silently principled thing, because the idea is, if you can get everyone to join in at the same time, you gain a little bit of footing and become slightly less precarious as an artist, and actually maybe Spotify will respond or something. Probably not.
He's just trying to impress Bob Dylan. It's sad.
Yeah. How does Bob Dylan play into this? Is he just an elder?
He's just a different old man I thought of. I would love to know. Bob Dylan's been awfully silent on mask mandates.
Well, he got accused of something pretty gnarly a while back, so I think he's just in general. Yeah, it's I'm a monster.
Time to head out of town. Wait till this all blows through.
I'm gonna go hitchhike with the guitar on my back out of the public eye.
Joni Mitchell is pulling her music off, or she said she was going to. There was a clickbait headline I saw. It was like, Joni Mitchell plans to follow Neil Young, citing, quotes, lies.
A lot of people are pulling their music. A lot of artists can't, because if you don't own the masters to your like material, you literally don't have control over that sort of thing. So that sucks.
This is the question. Is Spotify just going to become the Joe Rogan Experience app?
That would be awesome.
Is it just going to be him on there?
I think Spotify just has too much fucking control. Like, there's no way around this other than just overthrow the entire government, and then the Spotify is affected by like that. But like, you just can't. This is so frustrating for people because we like bought into this situation. We were like, sure, we'll just let one company own an entire art form, and then they pay everyone like shit, and they do stuff like this, and we have no control over it. And we're like, maybe if I boycott them, they'll stop. It's, like,
it's so convenient.
You fucked up. You just gave. I mean, we didn't fuck up, but this is bad. You should be anti-capitalista because there's the only way around this. It's the logical, inevitable conclusion to like all of the technology and stuff that that's making this. What do you call it? There's a fucking $10 word I'm looking for here.
Jake is expiring in front of our eyes, trying to figure out what the Spotify's fucking deal is.
I don't know. It's just, you just fucking can't win. I mean, it sucks. It's literally like there's one guy who's like, no one gets to be a musician. I will take all of the money off of like your whatever you sell. Like, it sucks. It sucks. You literally can't be a musician. You can't sell your fucking music anymore because everybody just listens to Spotify the same way. Like, it's like Uber, how they were trying to become the only rideshare service,
Oh yeah.
One.
I always feel torn about this kind of thing because I realize that it's all predatory and they're essentially just, owning the entire industry in a way that was unacceptable 100 years ago, but is now fine. But at the same time, if money was completely taken out of it, I love having the music app and the car app and not having to know a second one of any of those things. Because I don't want to think about what company is giving me shit. I just want to be like, music, boop, and then all of the music is there.
That's how I feel about all tech shit. Just nationalize it. I like those fucking scooters that they put out. Everyone hates them. I love them. I just think they should be free.
The ones that fuck you up?
Yeah, dude.
The scooters that tried to kill Danny Feltz?
Did he get almost killed by one of those? That sounds about right.
He was riding one in Atlanta and cut open like his entire leg or something.
Jesus Christ.
They're wildly dangerous, but they're a lot of fun.
Yeah. Nationalize all tech. That's my take on this.
Bring it home. Well, speaking of Joe Rogan, it's been a big week for him. He's this wonderful vascular man, and he has on the top intellectuals of the day. Usually, I mean, recently all the clips I've seen of him are like being embarrassed by whatever guest he has on, but he's going back to his bread and butter. He had Jordan Peterson back on this week, who wore a full 3-piece suit to go talk to Joe Rogan.
He podcasted in a tuxedo, which is the most alpha thing a man can do. Right?
Right. Like when you're out on a big date.
That was somebody tweeted, that guy Niles tweeted, you wear a tuxedo to hang out with another guy for 4 hours. That's a date.
That's a date.
They're dating. They're
correct.
In love. Yeah.
I think to be fair, we should describe what we're wearing right now. I would call it like a soot flannel.
Soot?
Yeah, it's I've been storing it on the floor in my bedroom for a few days. And I wore it yesterday, but it's mostly good. And that's what I wear to talk to Jake.
I didn't wear my tuxedo to podcast today. I feel, man, this sucks. We're not going to make as good of a podcast as the Rogan Peterson one. I'm wearing a Rory Blank shirt that has a tombstone on it. And it says, I tried a lot and it sucked. And it has 2 roses underneath it.
Right. Pretty classic casual, Rory. Honestly.
Yeah.
But it was a very productive conversation. It's a 4.5 hour long podcast. I don't like when podcasts are 4.5 hours long, but he does this a lot, and it kind of makes me wonder if I'm missing something.
Missing something by listening to them or by not making 4.5 hour podcasts?
Like, what am I not getting about the 4.5 hour format? I guess it does take up a full half of a work day.
Yeah. I mean, damn,
that's what we've established this is for, right? Is like you're at work and you leave on your ear buddies, and they tell you not to take medicine.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've gone off about this a million times, but like my theory of this is the parasocial, like people are lonely and we have no fucking way to hang out with each other anymore or even have like water cooler conversations because most of our work is super isolated. So like it does come down to Joe Rogan is your little buddy in your head.
He's so strong.
He's fucking strong. He's a father figure, a male presence that a lot of men did not have in this world. He's talking to Jordan Peterson about that. It's refreshing. He's like, he does the thing where he's like, I'm kind of a dumbass. So you're like, I'm not being indoctrinated with crazy conspiracy theories because he just said he's kind of kidding.
Yeah.
It's just like a warm bug light to put on for 4 fucking hours, man.
I think, maybe there's a real argument to be made that like exposure to this man at lower doses would really be beneficial for all of us. If it was just like, he doesn't have to change anything, but they gotta be 75 minutes tops. That's the longest you get. Have you ever spoken for 4.5 hours? You'll say all kinds of crazy shit that you didn't think you'd say.
That like you only do that when you're like in love with someone. Like him and Jordan Peterson talking for 4.5 hours is like you're on acid or something.
We lost track of the time talking about race.
I don't want to talk to anyone for 4.5 hours. Or like, remember in like the aughts when like Chappelle and Dane Cook were doing stand up and they were trying to break the world records? They're doing like 9-hour sets.
I think about that every day.
That shit sucks.
There had to be like a full hour of it where it was just like Dane Cook getting tired and he was like, this counts. If I make a face, it counts. And then everyone would be like, haha, or whatever. But yeah, like if you just eat food, but you're on stage, does that count as stand up?
Yeah. It also counts as podcasting. If you just listen.
Well, of course it counts as podcasting. But stand up is a high art form. We'll get around to that later. If I play this clip on my computer, can you hear anything?
I don't think so. But if you send it to me, I think I can play it, and then we can both hear it.
Here, I'm going to put it in the chat.
It's so funny that this is like the most consumed thing on planet Earth. This is like the height of what humans want.
Okay, wait.
Oh, no. Shut the fuck up.
We got started on my cue, but just to introduce this first clip. So, hour 3 or whatever. This may have been the first thing they talked about. I haven't watched the thing, but there are 2 or 3 viral clips from this episode, and the main one that everybody's talking about is they both gave their definition of what makes you black, which is what you want to hear from Joe Rogan to Jordan Peterson, which is like, I think we're going to listen to it, but I think they were maybe trying to make everybody mad. Okay.
Tolerance and bigotry and anger and hateful
sexual oppression.
What did Michael
prejudice
Dyson call you? Mean angry white man.
Yeah, and a mean angry white man. Yeah,
hilarious.
Yeah.
You're not mean at all.
Yeah.
That's what's dumb about that statement. It's you're not mean at all.
I am white. Actually, that's a lie too. I'm kind of tan, and he was actually not black.
You're tan,
he was sort of brown.
Because I'm darker than you.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but neither of us are white.
Well, I'm Italian.
And he was
really
brown,
think Joe Rogan is darker than
isn't
him.
that weird?
Yeah, it's really weird.
The black and white thing is so strange because
like
the shades are so
tan and brown.
There's such a spectrum of shades of people. Unless you're talking to someone who is like 100% African from the darkest place where they're not wearing any clothes all day and they've developed all that melanin to protect themselves from the sun. Even the term black is weird. And when you use it for people that are literally my color, it becomes very strange.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is true.
Voice
man.
of
fuck, holy shit.
Okay. So the premise of that is like they haven't heard about being black before, I guess.
I think what they're doing is the problem with like comedians is idea that you can sit down and riff out every concept alone, like, or in a dialogue with another dumbass, but never through reading theory and books and shit like that. So like, good example of this I bring up a lot is like Chappelle with like the gender stuff he's doing. He's been like 4 specials.
He's been riffing at gender for 8 years.
He's trying to be a comedian scientist and go, if I just talk about this long enough, I will figure it out. And it's like, that's not how like knowledge really works. Knowledge is like a social thing. Like you should, if he's obsessed with gender like this, he should read like Judith Butler and shit and learn about these concepts that have been like worked on over time, you know, coming from multiple people having conversations and stuff like that. Because like comedians all like when Patrice O'Neill would like sit down on the stool and just start thinking and like coming up with bits, you know, people were like, he's philosophizing. And in a way, you can do that if your goal is to come up with like a funny idea. But the problem with the Joe Rogan podcast is that like they're doing that, but it's not funny. And so it has to be presented as interesting. And it's not that either. And so I think what they're doing in this conversation is like, this could be a stand-up bit, like a very plain observational thing of like, we have these terms for race, and yet they're not really accurate descriptors. Because like all he's saying is like Caucasian skin isn't actually like the color white, like a white sheet of paper. And
I just want to add, this was a recurring joke on Get Fuzzy.
What the fuck is
cartoon strip about the guy who lives alone with a cat and a dog? The cat would notice stuff like this. He'd be like, they should call you Pinky, not White.
Yeah,
because you're pink.
White wine, it's yellow. Why do we call it white? You know, red
these were the kind of jokes the cat would make for your Sunday morning.
These are like hacky ass Jerry Seinfeld premises, right? If you look at it like a joke, if you look at it like an interesting conversation, it's two white guys not understanding like they're kind of deconstructing like racial categorizations that were created by white colonizing people back in the day. And then like, I mean, you could come to an interesting conclusion about this. Yeah, it's all fucking made up construct, right? But like you see that in their eyes, you see that like occur to them, like it's a thought that floats by their heads and just right out the fucking window. And then they're like, yeah, oh, you want to watch a video of a tiger now? Like, I don't know. How is this the most listened to fucking thing on planet Earth?
It's so infuriating because it's the Jordan Peterson of 2022 just smarmily digging away at an idea first approached and invented by the Jordan Peterson of 1795.
Yeah, I mean,
with horrible repercussions.
What's so frustrating about this is that these types of fucking people have to present information like publicly. Them having a conversation, the pretense is that we're watching these two guys like discover something by having a really interesting conversation with each other where they like figure stuff out. But all this stuff is like already figured out. And I think what's so offensive about it is the premise that they are like the first people ever to get this, because like I know that he says he's like, oh, I'm a dumbass or whatever, but his point of view, what's attractive to it about dumb guys, I think, is that it does seem to be like you're like, yeah, aren't most people so stupid that they don't get this cool stuff that me and my friend figure out when we smoke weed and look at like a felt glow in the dark fucking, you know, poster in my dorm bedroom or whatever. And you always look stupid if you're the guy who's like, I just figured this out. And I'm like, you know, I'm going to talk down to everyone about this thing that like the reality is there's like fucking millions and billions of people that have already talked about all this shit.
Look, we're real dudes. We're not pretentious like those coastal elites. This is just something me and my friend who came over wearing a bow tie are talking out.
What if when I see the color blue and you see the color blue, we're actually seeing two different colors? You ever think about that?
That's nuts, man.
I know, man. Isn't it crazy that we're the first people that have ever thought of this?
I think a lot of the southern region of Europe makes you steel.
That's true.
So
You look
that's
fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. That's just one of the bangers on this podcast. There's another big one that went around. So these are just like the 2 clips that had like multiple articles written about them. It's Jordan Peterson tackling climate, but the way he does it is not in a way you would guess it could be approached. And it's really interesting. And I think it's worth just thinking about how long he was in a steak-based coma after this.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Hard to sort out. The climate change one is a weird one. So that one,
that's because there's no such thing as climate, right? Climate and everything are the same word. And that's what bothers me about the climate change types. It's like, this is something that bothers me about it technically. It's like, well, climate is about everything. So, okay. But your models aren't based on everything. Your models are based on a set number of variables.
Yeah.
So that means you've reduced the variables, which are everything, to that set. Well, how did you decide which set of variables to include in the equation if it's about everything? And that's not just a criticism. That's like, if it's about everything, your models aren't right. Because your models do not and cannot model everything.
What do you mean by everything when you say part?
What do you mean by this is why I don't respect anyone's degree. Like, this is fucking proof that it doesn't. This guy like teaches at colleges. He's a professor, right? He's a fucking dumbass, dude.
But the main thing they do at college is this, which is like, be a really difficult bitch about very simple ideas for 6,000 words, and we'll give you an A for it.
Oh man,
what is friendship, if you think about it?
My problem with friendship types is that they think that friendship is not a variable, but it is.
My problem with these pony types is they say friendship is magic. But what is magic? Is it something a pony can use?
Yeah, you stupid bitch.
You
dumbass
bitch.
It's a very simple children's show. They shoot rainbows out of their
It's
butts.
called the Pony Sitters Club.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan Peterson on the Pony Sitters Club.
He would either love it or hate it. I'm not really sure.
He would probably, I mean, there's a lot of traditional elements to it I think he could really relate to, but it is highly illogical as a program.
I was thinking, with bronies, what's their thing? My Little Pony.
Friendship is magic.
About that. Yeah. What? Discord. The ponies are in opposition to an evil being that's feminine in nature. I don't know.
I guess the first thing I need, because I don't really know how to deconstruct the thing he just said, because it's mostly word salad. But what I do need to know is, when did he escape Russia? And is his daughter in jail for doing that to him? And like, where has this man been?
He was in Russia.
He was in a coma in Russia after fleeing with his daughter sometime around 2019. And then question mark, and now he's back and better than ever.
Right.
He did all those press releases about how eating only steak won't hurt you, and then slipped into a coma for 2 years. Do you remember this?
Yeah, fucking meat coma. That's awesome. I get why guys think he's cool. That's fucking.
I mean, he is kind of cool, but that is not what we are talking about.
He's cool in the way that, like, you know, I'm cool. Like, you're laughing at me because I did too many whippets and I'm about to fall off the balcony. But you shouldn't be listening to me.
Kids don't be like me.
Tuxedo and talk about race science with Joe Rogan. Like, if he was just some guy, you know, kind of the same thing with Trump. If he's just some guy, if you just hung out at your local bar, fucking Jordan disappeared for two years, comes back, and I was in a meat coma. You're like, Jordan, that's crazy.
For 2 years? 2 years.
Also, have you seen his daughter? Did you see her when she dressed up like a lobster on Halloween?
What? Why was she a lobster?
Because it was Halloween, and
I
he's
guess
got
anything
like,
goes on Halloween.
well, I think it was also a reference to his weird. He's got like a weird lobster metaphor that he uses.
Yeah,
But she was fucking hot, man. It was weird. She was a hot lobster one year
she
on
was a
Halloween.
sexual lobster.
Yeah.
And the lobster too is the lobster's like an archetypal masculine crawfish.
He has some fucking thing about it. I don't know. I've never listened to
Its
it.
claws are like its dick because how hands are like a dick, but it is a lobster, so it's not like that.
The antenna looks like a little mustache.
The
Men
nose
don't have
is the
mustaches
clit.
anymore. I don't know. Only women have mustaches now. Men are being told to shave or defy gender altogether. We should learn from the Red Lobster sign. Cheddar Bay biscuits. They're unlimited.
When we see unlimited breadsticks, it makes us ask, what is the limit to breadsticks that I can enjoy?
There is no variable in unlimited breadsticks and Cheddar Bay biscuits. That's everything. Yeah, unlimited. It's just like the climate.
And if it's everything, then where are these numbers coming from? That's what I gotta know.
$3 million bazillion dollars an episode, everyone.
And so Stephen Colbert Trevor Noah and a bunch of people did a bunch of shit about him saying he was black, and then and then the entire science community was like, stop telling people climate change is the same as whatever you said. Don't say what you said again anymore.
The first thing he said that really bothers me is climate types, because this is not.
That's
the
ignorant.
world is not divided up into climate types.
That's an ignorant thing to say.
Yeah.
Pink-haired climate types.
Man, holy shit. God, it's so. Sometimes like you ever get like imposter syndrome and you're like, why? We record a show every week and people pay us for it. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm just a comedian. But this is like the most high paid, listened to, respected thing like of all time.
Yeah. Well, but
you can never do worse than it.
We have a podcast, and I feel very grateful for that. But it is like I still make $20,000 a year. Everyone, calm down. Whereas if you were like rich and famous, I think it would feel different a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if we were being paid like $3 million a year or whatever to make this, I think I would have to be like, disclaimer, please do not take anything I'm saying seriously.
I can no longer relate to regular people. I wear a bow tie to my friends' houses. The suit is so visually funny. Like, I know I'm bringing it up a lot, but you gotta look at the picture, because he's just like sitting at a dinner table with a normal dressed man, and then Jordan Peterson looking very sick in a 3-piece suit.
Yeah, he's also dying. So he's like, he looks like a fucking corpse. Like they pulled him out of the ground to podcast about.
I think maybe his intention was to distract from the fact that he doesn't look that good, but it really only just highlights like the color of my skin is like.
Yeah, you know, like you have a hickey or something, and you're like, I'll wear something really distracting so no one, their eye is not drawn to my neck. He's like, if I wear a tuxedo, everyone won't notice that I am the Walking Dead.
It reveals the necrotic flesh above my neck.
Yeah. Oh man, he rules.
Yeah, very strong stuff.
That selfie he took when he's like off to talk to Joe Rogan. What an insane thing to do.
He had a really tough pose for it.
Yeah.
It was hands on hips. It was Power Rangers mode.
I guess it's kind of cute that he's like, I'm going to go talk to my friend. And then we're going to cause inadvertently the deaths of a lot of people and brain damage to some degree.
Play date time. Well, that's what's been going on with Joe Rogan. He had a big week. And I guess keep it up. In the meantime, here in New York City, we had a special awakening in the comedy community when this guy everybody knows was like a featured speaker at a national anti-mask protest.
This keeps happening. Dude, I worked at a bar in 2015, 2016, where there was an open mic at the bar. And like the people who came in were losers. And I was one of them. And it was a good time. It was like karaoke night or something. There was an open mic and everyone, you know, threw $5 in and then went up and bombed. And then we all got drunk and that was it. And I thought it would be a minor footnote in the story of my life. But every person like this keeps, a lot of people who hung out at that mic keep reappearing on like far right crazy like 3%er rallies and shit like that, because
it
like
was
you
just me, Ian Fidance, Louis J. Gomez,
right,
Tyler
like,
Fisher, Tim Dillon.
Fidance.
We're just some guys.
Yeah, Tim Dillon was around back then. He was just dicking around, you know. Ever just like, oh, he's this crazy blowhard. He yells and shit about liberals or whatever, you know, whatever. It's a hoot, you know. Now he's like fucking gonna destroy the, you know, the world. I mean, Finance back then was like doing a show about like being a ska fan or whatever, just doing like dumb jokes, and then like cut to a couple years later, because the comedy industry is rat poison for your brain and horrible for your soul and doesn't lead anywhere, and there aren't any actual jobs here. You just go wherever the fuck like you get booked. Dude was doing podcasts with Alan Dershowitz because like, you know, if you do what comedy tells you you're supposed to do, just never turn anything down and show up and do your best at everything. The only things that are hiring comedians are like these weird fucking far right.
They're the only people with money. Capital has all of the money in society. Labor is not going to pay you to have funny observations and do media for them. That's not a thing.
Right.
If you want to make it, because there's no like, when you get into comedy, there's an expectation that with meritocracy, if you get really good, objectively, you'll fit in somewhere and have some kind of job doing that. That is the lie that is posited at the beginning, that people throw their lives away to pursue. And then a lot of time, like years 3 to 5, it comes down to this thing where it's like, okay, so now I know how to do comedy, but I'm not being professional enough. So I've known Tyler for a long time. This week we're talking about Tyler Fisher, who is a guy I follow on Twitter. He follows me back. I've known him for like 10 years. He's very nice. He's a very good comedian. His main thing is he's around 5 feet tall. He'll show up at your show. He'll bring a clipboard and he'll ask everyone coming in and out of the room if they want to join his mailing list. And he has a very professional like website. And he was the host of HQ Trivia in 2019. And that was his big hook before this. Then COVID hit. And this is the direction more and more of the comedy community is taking as the country experiences brain death, which is I can get a lot of attention and a lot of fans if I go to where this crowd is and become part of it. And that's not to say that like he doesn't have these opinions, because I bet he does, or at least like maybe you softly believe that there shouldn't be mask mandates before you get a roaring crowd approving for you. But if you have the link, I think we should play just the beginning of this clip, because it's a really special convergence of things.
Okay. I've got some stuff to say about this too, so I'll play it real quick, and then this is a real juicy piece of weird content. Let's go into it.
It's a really
Our
special
next
moment.
speaker is a comedian with over 50 million videos.
Also, the sound on this clip is just bad. It's not your headphones or whatever. That's what's happening.
That's what it's all part of it.
Views online. I'm a fan of his. He does a better impression of Fauci than Fauci does. Please welcome Tyler Fisher to the stage.
You need to see.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
There's 50,000
Came
people.
out. I am a little ashamed of you because, as you know, you should be sitting down because COVID does not infect the immune system.
when you're sitting. So please sit down and take out a cheeseburger and do the right thing.
Okay,
Put a
pause.
mask on that.
He does the like sitting down, like he riffs about sitting down at his shows because of how short he is. That's his go-to thing.
What?
He's like, I finally feel good that you're all sitting down because I'm so short. Then he'll usually stand on a chair. And it's like a big visual thing of like, I'm up here on the chair.
So he's reworked his short guy material.
He's like doing his act right now. And then he goes right into impressions of Fauci and then cut to like 30 seconds from the end. Because there's one more thing that I wanted to show in this clip.
Okay. About here. Let's get glasses on now.
I think he's doing Fauci.
Oh, he pulled him out to do Fauci. I don't know why it's not loading.
He's owning Fauci.
I'm gonna have to refresh the page here. Hey, what the fuck, dude?
All right, if it doesn't load, I'll just tell you what he does. But he essentially does plugs at the end of his set.
I got you.
When is it going to end, Fauci? When? I'd say maybe 1 to 3 to 70 years. We can start thinking about the idea of pondering the possibility of maybe perhaps reopening, but
You can hear
probably
people
not.
dying.
Guys, comedy is being shadow banned and censored, so go on YouTube, check my stuff out, spread it out, and watch JP. I love you. You guys are the heroes. Thank you.
You guys are the heroes. That's a great way to end a set.
Oh, man.
Shadow band. You guys are the heroes. He looks like an evil version of his former self. Like his eyes are all sunken and shit. And he's all like, I'm a Carhartt guy now or whatever. But
He
like,
didn't used to have a big beard for one.
yeah, I knew this guy. I used to come in Old Man Hustle when I worked there, and he was like, what's so funny to me about this is that his comedy was not political. It was goofy. And so he would do stuff like in New York, when you ride the subways every once in a while, somebody goes, hey, it's showtime. And like these teenagers will do breakdancing. So he made a video one time where he goes, hey, it's showtime. And then he's dressed like a leprechaun and he does river dance instead of breakdancing. That's cute.
Now that's funny.
Like it was funnier than this shit. And like, he's just goofball. He didn't break character. He's like doing the river dance on the train, whatever, stuff like that. It just is what it is. But like, I heard what happened to him, and it totally tracks, which is that, he was that type of guy who would like bring the clipboard out and go sign up for my mailing list and hand out business cards and stuff like this. All this stuff that like your dad tells you, like, okay, if you're going to do comedy, you should do it like this because this is how you start a business in America. And like, he's really following the fucking American dream. Like if you work hard enough, you will be able to carve some kind of niche out and you'll get a job, and ideologically underpinning this whole fucking thing is that huge lie that, it's I feel bad for the guy because it is what this country tells you all day, every day, and what old people tell you. And it's, the myth that capitalism is able to be fruitful for all of us if you just have a fucking dream, right? And he, I think, was trying really hard, and then as the bottom started to fall out of everything economically, and like COVID was happening, all this stuff was thrown into crisis. The thing you do, the fugue state that you're in when you do stand up, and you're just like going from set to set to set to set forever, and not really thinking about where any of it's headed, fell away. And like a lot of people had to like kind of look at what they were doing and assess, am I going to make this or not? And I think that he was up for like a show, like a TV show that was going to be a pretty big break, if I heard correctly. And they told him that they weren't, like, he got pretty far in the process of almost getting hired. And then they told him that they weren't hiring white guys after all, and that they were doing like diversity hiring, which is a real thing that does happen, and it's frustrating.
The beard shoots out of his head.
You can see how the Joker was a fucking documentary. Like you could see like how this does just immediately break his fucking soul in half, and because he did all the things you're supposed to do, and then it turns out that this industry is a complete farce. And like, it's kind of a dicey issue, but like that is a real thing. Like they do hire people based on stuff like that, because this is like not a real meritocratic system. And if I think that the takeaway he could have gotten from this to save his mind from being shattered into a million fucking pieces and going over to the QAnon people would be that the system doesn't work at all. Like it's chaotic, and it's not meritocratic, and it's not your fault if you try as hard as possible and do all the right things and it doesn't pay off. But if you live inside of what Mark Fisher described as capitalist realism, if that is an impossible thing to compute, that this system is not actually good for all of us and it's never going away, then the only explanation after you experience something like this is there must be some chaotic third element that like intervened and fucked up what was, according to the system, going to happen. Like you deserved to kind of, you're earning stuff. And so that's when I think conspiracy theories come in, and also this big anti-wokeness thing, because what happened is after he didn't get that show, he made a video that was like, why I left the left. And it was just like, this guy, like what,
the left,
is the Jolly Cat alt right now? Like what the fuck?
Is Bunga's Den the left?
But I think he came to the conclusion that, that he would have gotten that job and things would have worked out for him if it wasn't for this factor that is appearing as like, what do you call it when the hiring initiatives, affirmative action?
Affirmative action.
So he's seeing it as like, oh, well, this element is like completely to blame for this stuff, because otherwise this would be a working system. And that's the wrong conclusion. This is not a working system at all. Even if you somehow were able to take that element out of it, capitalism does not function in a way where like a rising tide lifts all boats or whatever. So this is, I'm sorry, I'm going off on my manifesto or whatever, but this is kind of the main thing I've taken away from being in comedy, is that there's a breaking point to which, and it's not really people's fault, if you pursue this entrepreneur shit long enough, you will come up against like a brick wall like this. And we're living in a country, the capitalist realism thing, where you're like, it's impossible. Like, you're not supposed to know that it's because the system doesn't work. So if you don't become an anti-capitalist ideologically and understand the system that you live in, and like understand like, hey, I'm a prole, and proles don't get to be rich most of the time, and that's just the way it is, but you can still enjoy your life and like be a bartender or whatever, and like just be a fun working class person. If you don't get that, then your only fucking possible outcome is to go completely insane and become the Joker like this, and it's so fucking sad. At the end of the day, I feel sorry for people like this, man.
The only thing the thing you said earlier, I think is such an important part of it, which is that this was not a political guy. Like, not even like a political comedian. Like, this was like a man who was like, I would like to do Jerry Seinfeld now, and that will be what I do. And that is specifically who gets roped into this kind of thing. Because if you don't have politics, the fact that you weren't picked on the show to affirmative action the role to some other guy, that feels like you have been taking negative repercussions for something that's not your fault. And by embracing this right-wing, essentially white supremacist politics, you are directly benefiting. He has fans, he has YouTube visits, he has all this shit. But it's not because you are changing your politics. It's that you are found that you are getting a carrot for embracing right-wing politics from zero. You didn't have any before. You talked about doing Riverdance. That's also what happened to Tim Dillon, because he is a right-wing guy now, but Tim at his core, and this is like what he was doing 5 years ago, is truly a scammer from Long Island. Once he received a bunch of money for being funny around right-wing people, immediately was like, I got it, and knew who to start hanging out with and what kind of shows to start going on.
Yeah, it's funny because there's two different types of guys in that respect. There's guys like Tim where you're like, he knows what he's doing. Like, he's doing it.
It's a much less innocent version of this phenomenon.
And then you've got these guys who, like, it's kind of sad, but you still eventually are going to have to put them up against the wall and be like, you can't keep being like this, because it's like it's a horrible thing to be, but like it is just a fucking lost person, and it sucks. And like another aspect of this that to speak to what you just said, I think it's why it's really truly important to understand the nature of the term reactionary. Like, this dude did not have politics. His political ideology was birthed in reaction to what he diagnosed as the problem. And if you don't have anti-capitalism in your brain, then you're always going to come up with some crazy ass shit. That's the problem. That's how you end up with like the scapegoating stuff that all these right-wing grifters do, where they're like, it's the wokes, it's queer people, it's, you know, fucking feminists and immigrants and all this stuff. They serve as placeholders for your natural rage, which is real, but you don't understand that it is at capitalism. It's at the fucking system. It's not even at individual rich people. It's at the system that keeps them rich and you poor. But if you don't have that, I mean, you like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. You're only able to become political once you go off in this weird direction. Like, the other thing I want to say about him is that there's a thing with comedy where like political types, like people that are like, you know, climate types, I'm just kidding. Political types are like the people that are real nerds about comedy like to do this thing where they imagine that people with good politics are good at comedy and we have the best comedians, and
they tell the best truth.
Yeah, and
they're doing the most truth per minute.
And that right-wing comedians are all like unfunny and stuff like that. And important part of this story with Tyler Fisher is that he was pretty funny. Like, he's not a bad comic. Wasn't my favorite comic because I'm not really a goofball guy, but like he was pretty funny. And it didn't work. And like, people need to understand that, because like he's getting referred to as a failed comedian by a lot of people. And like, you know, comedy failed him. He didn't fail comedy. Like it.
I have a very important anecdote for the end of this episode. Just because it's a blizzard outside right now, I had a very vivid memory today. I got booked on something during a blizzard, I think in 2015 or 16. And it was like my one show of the month. And so I was really excited for it. And there was like 3 feet of snow outside or some ridiculous thing. And everyone was like, yeah, the show's not canceled, but you clearly don't have to go. And I was like, you don't understand. I'm not going to miss a booking. And so I got on the train, which was somehow not stopped through Manhattan. The L took me down 14th Street to where the show was. It took like an hour and a half to go a very short distance. I get there. The only people at the venue, and this is a very common occurrence, are the other comedians.
Yeah.
And when no one else is there, the comedians don't always just go home, because it takes them so long to get to where they were going, and they were so excited about it. When no one is around, we do our little jokes for just each other for like an hour. You just tell this room where no one wants to hear it, your little observations about the crazy world around you, and people are giving you like pity laughs or like too much laughter to pretend like you're all having fun. And This is the bedrock of the entire industry that we're all going out. Because no matter who your favorite comedian is, they've all, unless they were started 30 years ago, they have all also done this exact same thing.
When I first moved to New York, that blew my mind. Because like, I don't think that really happened in Austin. I think if you didn't have an audience, you just didn't do a show. But it like, you also weren't doing like New York is all about like doing as many sets as possible and stuff. And like, it is absurd. Other comedians will look at their phones while they're watching you, and then you're like, don't you realize I'm also going to look at my phone while you're on and like,
you start crowd working them.
But there's just this like 10,000 hours bullshit myth of like, well, if I get my muscle memory, like, you know, used to being on stage, then I'll eventually be on TV. And like, then this shit happens. But like,
monkey's paw curls at the anti-mask mandate rally.
Yeah, you're on TV, you're on the news, motherfucker.
Like, I know a guy used to come to my open mic, killed his mom. People want to get on TV.
Yeah. But like, what I was getting at about how like people want to assume, oh, right-wing comedians aren't funny and stuff like that. And like also that, these grifters are always failed comedians. It's a fun insult. It's a fun punchline to be like, oh, you're a failed comedian. And a lot of them sucked ass at comedy, but we're assuming that if they were good, this also wouldn't happen. And in Tyler's case, he was good and it still happened. And like, when I think I figured it out, I think what's going on is like, I would like to think that like, oh, everyone who's a socialist or whatever is better at comedy, but that's not the case. Usually when someone is funny, it's because they are just focused more on being funny, and then they also have politics. And when someone puts politics first, even if they have good politics, they're often like not that funny. And it's also like Tim Dillon is like really funny. Like this is important to note. We can't be walking around going, oh, the right wing is like so bad at comedy or whatever. Oh, they all do attack helicopter jokes or whatever. The problem with Tim is that he's really fucking funny, and that it's causing him to like, he's like he's just a piece of a puzzle that like came together, and right-wing bullshit grifter ideology is like moving through him because he's a good vessel for it, like a good way of purveying it out in the world. I mean, with a lot of what's going on,
he's probably the funniest guest Joe Rogan has ever had on, I would guess.
Yeah, it's precisely the problem is that he is funny, because it's making, if you've got Koch brothers dark money and you want to kind of like promote stuff that he's saying, it all comes together and it becomes very advantageous for people like to dump money through like these think tanks into him and stuff like that. And if everyone's walking around thinking this stupid thing that we all think, which is if I laugh at it, it must be good politics, then people will actually listen to him and recommend him as like someone who's really smart and not just entertaining. And like, you need to know the fucking difference. Cause like there are guys that you walk around in this world and you meet and they get like a glazed over look in their eye. And they're like, have you heard Tim Dillon? He's so intellectual. And you're like, no, he's a good speaker was what you're getting at. Like you were enjoying his way of like, entertaining you and purveying information or whatever. You can be wrong about stuff and do that. And I think that's like kind of what's going on with this burgeoning like alt media world that we're going to maybe realize in 100 years looking back on this, is that like, there's a lot of like just good speaking going on here. There's a lot of people that like
we're really popping off.
There are a lot of people in this world that like will make a really good point using the sort of like gifts that someone like Tim has for public speaking. And if you pay attention long enough, a few years later, they'll make the opposite point. And it will also be really fun to hear them make that point. And you realize there's no ideological consistency in what they're saying. Like what they're saying isn't important. They're just paid to go on a microphone or whatever.
I mean, there's no better example of how good politics is not the same as good comedy that you can touch back on if you listen to this show, is if you watched any television between 2000 and 2010. Did you laugh at 6 seasons of South Park? Do you think it's because they were insightful about stuff? The Man Bear Pig South Park episode where they just say Al Gore is afraid of a mythological creature and climate change isn't real is really funny.
Oh, yeah.
They had to go out of their way and apologize for it. But it's a really good episode of television.
Yeah, I just think it's like such a uniquely like lame modern thing, because like the only currency that we really deal in the modern world is just entertainment and stuff and like consuming media. So nobody really takes a moment to look at this situation and realize how absurd it is that like we think that your moral compass is like basically in tune with the thing on Netflix where it goes, do you thumbs up this or thumbs down this? The things that you collect by just consuming media like that are a reflection of some sort of truth in the world. And they're not. They're just fun, you know? I guess I got kind of far away from Tyler Fisher on this, but like, I just think he's like a great example of like a contradiction here that people are going to be tempted to go, oh, he's a failed comedian. And that's beside the point.
I just think it's a very special moment to watch as the balkanization of this country goes into its stage 4 where everyone is against their neighbor. It's really special.
There's
Watch
him and like
any-
Chrissy Mayer. Like these lists of comics that are like they've just sort of drifted upstream into this weird fucking QAnon thing because it's profitable. They keep coming out and like you'll see like really bad flyers that are like the new outlaws of comedy are Jim Brewer, Dave Chappelle, our friend Tyler, and that crazy chick Chrissy Mayer. Like even the famous ones are just like they have nowhere to go, so they're just doing this shit.
Rewatch any clip of Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Just see what they say on Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
But what do you mean?
My favorite show for 10 full years.
Oh, right. It's probably not a good political compass. It doesn't actually mean anything about the world.
Yeah. Do not take Frylock at his word.
Dude, I'm gonna vote for Meatwad next time.
Yeah, dude, I love Meatwad. He's been such an inspiration on me as a performer. Turning into an igloo, but then a hot dog.
Yeah.
Turning into the buff Meatwad that ladies love.
Hanging out with Boxy Brown.
Oh my God, Boxy Brown!
Yeah.
Canceled. Man, I love Boxy Brown.
Boxy Brown isn't even brown, you know?
No,
He's
he
actually
is brown.
brown.
I mean, you got to give him that. He's a box. All right. Well, what a week in media. Let's call it there for now. And
Let's
what do
do
we
it.
got to plug?
I have 2 shows in February. I have one, my show, Meat Space Comedy at the Gutter in Williamsburg, Greenpoint, is happening on February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. Take your heartbroken ass down to the bowling alley and listen to some jokes. Alex is on that show. And then I have another show that's happening online on this website called Rush Ticks, which is like an online comedy club. It's legit. They've had like Patton Oswalt, Maria Bamford, and people like that, and me for some reason. So if you want to watch me do comedy online, I'm not going to phone it in like these fucking, people that just do their act and put a brick wall up behind them. I'm just going to write one-liners and jokes and stuff for Zoom and not try to do Chris Rock at you. Come to my Rush Ticks show. It's on February 24th. All this stuff is on my pinned tweet on Twitter and show notes and all that stuff.
I'm thinking of right-wing Chris Rock. What a powerful monster we would unleash. Doubling down on Jake's show, I will be there this time. Last time there was a very good reason, and I can't talk about it, but I'm gonna be there. And don't ask me, why was I at the last one? I'm going to be coming up with hot, new jokes. Who knows what they're going to be? Maybe I'm going to tackle issues of the day. Who knows what it is? I don't know what it is.
Alex Patak has the best Dr. Fauci impression.
Yeah, I'm going to bring my glasses so that you know when I've turned into Fauci.
Yeah.
Because it will be like he's in the room. So you don't want to miss that. Also, Paid Protest is 3 days after at Secret Loft on February 18th. Next show, Hot Show. Hot Show's coming up. Thank you again for backing Theater of the Light Season 4. And subscribe to the Poddamn America Patreon, why don't you? We just talked about the gun church in Korea. Jake Flores tackles Korea.
I tackled King Bullethead, and I got shot by his head.
Jake jumps above King Bullethead and smashes him with his butt.
Yeah, I'm like King DDD. That's how I fight.
Bye-bye.
Or Bowser.
A lot of people, it's actually a very common fighting style in certain parts of the world.
Yeah. Jumping into the air, somehow stopping, like moving, turning slightly so you're facing an imaginary camera, and then slamming your ass straight down on someone.
And doing that face too while you do it. Like,
yeah.
Lord help me. I'm about to smash him.
But it's Lord help me, I'm back to the old me. Smashing people with my ass. All
right. Well, I can't think of a better way to end the show.
4 hours podcast this week. Man, I can't believe we did it. So intellectual. We figured out climate change. We're wearing tuxedos.
Keep rocking, climate people.
Max
finished.
said. It's finished.